Hi everyone, I'm Sokhwa. Today I'll be sharing with you how you can be a competent, confident, and also creative Toastmaster of the day. Well, Toastmaster of the day, there are many ways to say it. Some people just say Toastmaster, some Toastmaster of the evening, and the short form TMD or TME is very common in different clubs. So what are the benefits of playing this role? This role is very much afraid by many members, especially the newer members, because they think that you need to be a very confident speaker or very senior Toastmasters to play this role. And actually, you can try to persuade your new members to take up this role by sharing with them the benefits. For example, they can learn how to organize a meeting. In our case right now, we can only hold online meetings. So they can learn how to manage an online meeting. Time management in terms of making sure each agenda is stick to the planned time. Public speaking skills, of course, you need to speak very impromptu, and you need to know how to introduce a speakers. Critical thinking skills in the sense that when there are any last minute changes, as a TMD, you will need to know how to face these kind of adversities or ad hoc situations. And the duty of the Toastmaster is actually quite simple in a sense that you can call yourself an MC for an event or meeting. And some club even call it a meeting director. Yeah, sounds really great. So let me share with you today from two perspectives. First is before the meeting, what you need to do as a TMD. I'll use TMD as an acronym here. And also what you need to pay attention to during the meeting. So first, let me start with before the meeting. First, you need to work with your club vice president of education, the one who planned out the meeting, the one who find the role players. Yeah, so some club may be VPE, some club may be secretary, some may be the president who is more well-versed, so it depends. TMD need to talk to them and ensure that you finalize all the meeting roles. If possible, try not to get, one member playing two or more roles. Yeah, we try to find and involve as many members as possible. And secondly, ensure all club participants know their roles and responsibilities, especially for new members who take up the role for the first time. Mostly new members will take up like counter, timer, an easier role like SAA as well. So ensure that you or your VPE really communicate with these new members, the first timers, to play their role well. Yeah, whatever notes that they need to have or the step-by-step guidelines, ensure that you have all these guidelines provided to them before the meeting, okay? And go through the agenda before the meeting. Once the agenda is prepared, finalized by the VPE or the secretary, make sure you read through the agenda first. Whatever that you don't understand, please clarify with them. And you can plan your delivery method and style. Some clubs even have a TMD script, yeah, where you can actually read it like a MC script. But I would say try to use your own words to introduce the speakers, try to use your own words to introduce the next agenda, and that would actually make your delivery style more natural and it's easier to engage with the audience. So plan on your delivery method and style. Whatever words that you scared you forget, you can make it like a script or point form for your reference. It's definitely okay for you to have some notes for your reference. Next is contact and compile introductions of main role players and project speakers. So this, usually it's done by the club VPE, but I would say TMD is also responsible to ensure that you understand and you know all the main role players for that meeting. Introduce them as much as you can to make them feel welcome, to make them feel great and prepare them before they go on stage. Okay, and the project speakers as well. Some project speeches require certain kinds of introduction. So make sure that you have this introduction prepared before the speaker speak, and that will actually save a little bit of time and give the audience some context about the project speech. Confirm with club officers or senior Toastmasters on the meeting conduct. Every club has their own culture. So if you are unsure about the club culture or the conduct, please talk to the club officers or the president. For example, like right now it's online voting. How is the voting being done? Is it through the Zoom poll, or is it through another app like Slido or Mentimeter? Make sure that you are clear about all this and you know who will launch the poll. Yeah, and I would say try to avoid to ask on the spot, because that will actually disrupt the meeting flow a little bit and it will steal off some time, and yeah, it may drag the meeting as well. So ensure that you know who will launch the poll and how is it done, to explain the guidelines to the audience on the spot. Awards and announcements, especially to the end of the meeting, you also need to be sure who is doing the announcement, and if you are sharing slides to show that e-certificate, who are going to share the slides in the online meeting. Announcement, are you going to have a open announcement, like you invite any guests or members to do announcements? Or is it only the TMD yourself to make that necessary announcement, or they can do it in the chat box? So all these, you need to plan it well. And I would say it may require some ad hoc changes depending on the timing of the meeting. Sometimes when your meeting is over delayed or dragged, you may want to tweak around on this usual practice as well. Okay, be flexible. Last but not least, it's an optional thing to prepare a TMD slides for better visualization and introduction about the Toastmasters International, the program, as well as about your home club to the guests and members. Yeah, I would say even though sometimes you may not have external guests or non-Toastmasters joining the meeting, it's very important to do this part to remind each member. Who knows, the new member will be the next TMD. So it's a good reference as well if you do your best as a TMD. And introduction about Toastmasters, there are many ways to do it. Instead of sometimes you mention just only the founder, Dr. Ralph C. Smedley, I think many of the times we can always Google for more information from the TI website in order to get more information about this organization. And also you can talk about pathways, learning experience, how we actually improve our communication and leadership skills. So try to vary your introduction about Toastmasters, and not to be worried, because in my next video, I would also like to share with you what are the TMD slides that I've done before. I will try to give you as much info as I can in my next video so that you can see how I introduce Toastmasters. Yeah, those are a full set of slides. Of course, it depends on you how much time you have for your TMD takes control session in the beginning, and you can adjust the content based on your club needs, all right? Now, let me go to the next part, which is during the meeting. But of course, before that, before the meeting, right, it's very important for you to have a checklist as well. Like for myself, I'm a person who likes to plan and organize. So I need to ensure that I have all these lists or the tasks being ticked off before I go into the meeting. So it will give me a peace of mind as a TMD. Okay, during the meeting now, I would say in the context of an online meeting, usually an online meeting, the meeting room will be open at least about 15 minutes to 30 minutes earlier compared to the meeting time. So arrive to the meeting earlier to ensure that everything is well, and make sure that if you have any last minute changes, you can do that and clarify things before the meeting starts. And of course, for a physical meeting wise, you need to be there earlier as much as you can to make sure the meeting setup is done properly. The gadgets and everything, devices is properly set up. And next, identify backup role players in case of any no-shows. Be prepared and aware of any agenda changes. So in this case, when you go through the agenda before the meeting, it's also very important to take note of any members or any guests coming to the meeting, and if they are okay to play any last minute roles if there are any no-shows. So just be aware of this, and so that you won't need to have many people to play dual roles during the meeting. And next, of course, during the first session where the TMD takes control, this is the part that you speak the most. You will introduce the Toastmasters International history. Club history is also something that many clubs may forget sometimes. So ensure that you know about the club, and perhaps you want to have one slide or two slides or one document that actually documents down how does the club being founded, when it's chartered, how is it chartered, who is the person involved, and so on. Okay, the club history, so that you can be passed down to all the TMD in your club. Main role players like the technical role players, general evaluator, grammarian, arc counter, and timer. This is what we do in Malaysia. So we will invite these 4 role players to introduce their roles and so on. But of course, some clubs, they do practice introducing other role players as well, like table topics evaluator and so on. And for these guests, this part is optional. It depends on how much time your club has. Most of the time, it's the president when he or she deliver the opening address to address the guests or maybe any district officers who are present. But if there are some guests that is not addressed, you can also take the chance to address them when they come into the meeting. And of course, if you have the time, you can even go around robin introduction. For example, if you have time, but then there are not many people in the meeting, you can get a chance to invite everyone to speak for about 30 seconds or 1 minute on the meeting team, for example, or maybe on a certain question that you address. Usually it's related to the team. Get everyone involved and warm up in the beginning of the meeting. I think that is very important for an online meeting. You may not want to do it every time because it may take a lot of time, but when your meeting is like not attended by many people for the particular day, or you have a special event, you can do this, okay? And next is introduce each roles and speakers accordingly, ensure smooth transitions and keep to agenda timing. Of course, this is really depends on your style. Some people are really energetic and some, they are very organized, very poised. So determine your own style. Liven up your meeting in your own way, be confident, creative, and comical. You can add in some small jokes, humors as you go along, or you can even introduce a short icebreaker or game in between the meeting. Yeah, it just depends on how you want to make things your way. And always lead the applause. I think it's very important to have applause because when we are in a physical meeting, we always can hear that applause. Yeah. And in the beginning of online meeting as well last year, I also realized that we actually emphasize too much on muting ourselves. Yeah, when other speakers are speaking, please mute yourself to ensure no distractions. Yeah, but sometimes I felt that if the speaker have finished the speech, it's good to encourage all the audience to, unmute themselves and really let them hear the sound of the applause. Yeah, to make it noisy and more lively a little bit, rather than so quiet throughout the meeting. Okay, so depends on you how you want to control it. Just ensure that all the participants are clear about when to mute themselves, when to unmute themselves. So certain point of time, like the awards announcement session, you can actually ask them to make some noise in the room. Okay, and that is all for the during the meeting session. This is also a short tip which I got from the Toastmasters International website on how to introduce a speaker. I think this is very important to learn because as an MC of an event, first is we need to learn how not to steal the limelight. Yeah, don't steal the show of the speaker. Use at most 60 seconds to introduce the speaker, either on the speech or a little bit of biography about that speaker, okay? And secondly, briefly mention the topic, just briefly, not too much, to reveal his speech. And the third one is, of course, to establish the speaker's authority and expertise, especially if that topic is something like to do with leadership, yeah, where the speaker need to appear to be very influential. Why do I need to listen to you? Ensure that if the topic is something like that, make sure you establish that kind of credibility on the subject matter expert. The last one is to state the speaker's name and speech title. Yeah, sometimes even though in the agenda, the speaker's name and title is already written there very clearly, but I think as the MC or the TMD, you need to do your job as well. You can use the contest method, which is to repeat the speaker's name, speech title, and name. For example, Sokwa, just do it, Sokwa, and you hand over the stage to the speaker. So that will actually make the speaker feel very ready for that particular speech session. All right. And last but not least, so after you have listened to my tips and also guidelines on how to become a TMD, are you more convinced to become a very confident TMD? Yeah, I think many of you may feel very scared for the first time. I think many think we have a first time. So just don't need to worry too much. But I think when you say yes to your club VPE to become a TMD, somehow you will find ways to excel in the role. And for your information, to be successful in this role, there are actually 4 main personas that you can learn. The first one is the event planner, which is to really plan out how you want to organize the meeting. Okay, for example, in terms of the speaker's order, the agenda order, usually it's table topics, features, and evaluation, whether you want to have a tweak or you want to change a little bit or add a icebreaker or games in between. So that is up to you to plan it. Event planner, very important. And the second one is the tour guide, how you want to graciously host the meeting and ensure everyone is going on a virtual tour on Toastmasters, on improving themselves with you. How you want to guide them, it really depends on how you lead the meeting. That's why I would say the vibrance and the livelihood is very important. The third one is engaging MC, keeping the audience interested throughout the meeting. How you want to do so on an online meeting? Not only that you can use your voice, different vocal variety to engage with them, maintain eye contact into the camera, but also something that you can do is also the chat box. Initially, when I started online meeting, I realized, hey, using the chat box too much sometimes is very distracting. But after some time, I realized when the chat box is noisy, it's also something good, which means that everyone is involved in the meeting. Yeah, either in the chat box or in front of the camera and etc. So trying your best to engage the audience as much as possible, ask them questions, launch some polls or quiz, or ask them questions in the chat box to get them involved and interested. Last but not least, the last persona that you can act as is an efficient administrator. Yes, this one, what does it mean is, of course, to stick to the time, the punctuality. When you serve as a TMD in all these meeting role, you will learn all these qualities. How to become an event planner, tour guide, MC, and also an administrator. So I would say it's a lot of benefit that you can learn from TMD role. Take the opportunity to stretch yourself further in this new year, 2021. No matter you have been in this role for the first time or many times, try to stretch yourself to explore different things. I believe even though we are now on the virtual platform, there are many ways for us to be creative. Okay, and yeah, the meeting quality, it depends on you. So last word from me is TMD role is definitely one of the most valuable ways to level up your leadership. And because you get to organize and guide and engage and command all in one session, everything. Yeah, and in fact, you speak the most compared to other speakers. Why not take up this challenge? As much as you can, do the TMD role. After you are comfortable with your own club, try to explore it in other clubs as well. Of course, you need to understand the club culture. It's best to visit the club first, external clubs first, before you actually play a TMD role in their club, because you just don't want to screw up the meeting and get the members, response. Okay, thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned for my next video that I will share with you my TMD slides, as well as some creative ways on how you can really spice up your online meeting. Okay, thank you. So just subscribe and also click the bell notification to get more updates from me. Thank you.